Hello, everybody. It is approximately about 9:45 p.m. On Monday because I decided I'm not going to stream on the weekends. Sorry if that bothers you, but that's the way it goes. It's Monday, June 19th, 2017, and welcome once again to Do You Even Art? This is episode 3. We went ahead, I finished up a couple different pieces and was fooling around with a Freddy piece on Friday. I am not working on the Freddy piece tonight. I'm finishing up, well, probably not finishing tonight, but I am going to be going ahead and doing a commission-based piece here. This is for one of my friends as a wedding gift, is what he's working on, kind of getting up and going for an anniversary. And as we can see here, it's more of a kind of a cut and paste combination kind of thing going on here. The original photo had the justice of the peace, or the priest, or whichever it was. I believe it was the justice of the peace. In between the two, the justice of the peace had their arms crossing and stuff like that. That they didn't. That my friend here, he didn't want in the actual painting itself. So cut him out and just kind of move things around and everything. And as you can see, this is a very, very, very low quality reference image that I got here. And this is after I spoke with him a few times and kind of told him exactly what I would need reference wise to make it the best I could. He did the best he could, being that this is a really old picture. But if you zoom in on the reference to 100%, you'll see what I'm working here with. Quality wise, all types of grainy issues. There's no detail. You can't really see that he has a mustache. You can't see his chin beard or sideburns, which he does have during this time too. Not just now, but during this time, he does have a mustache and soul patch and sideburns and the whole 9 yards. You can barely see the vest that he's wearing and everything. And I have a few other references that I've been using from his wedding day that's been kind of helping me out. And you'll see me probably pull those up every now and then. Another thing he had was he wanted the bride's eyes to be at least a little bit brightened up. They're a little bit dark. Can't really see too much detail there. I'm working on that right now. And he didn't want too much of her teeth showing. Apparently she's self-conscious about stuff like that. So that's what you do in the art world. You go ahead and you take what the person's ideas are and you try to make them a reality as best as you can. And that's what I'm going on about right now, is pushing this forward, and let's see what we can kind of find out here with everything. And other than that, there's not really too much more to go over in terms of this art, or while I'm doing it, or anything of that nature. So we will kind of move forward and get things moving for you. As always, if you do want to go ahead and take part in the conversation, please, oh please, if you will, hop into the chat, ask some questions. I'd be more than happy to go over things with you and answer any worries or questions that you have when it comes down to this art, or any other art, and we'll go from there. Keep in mind, we here at ThatStevenRice, which honestly it's just me, which you know, we do love to bring these to you. I'm glad that I got a chance to start these live streams and everything, and share and impart some of my knowledge and things like that, as much as I have. And, there's tons of better artists out there, so I'm glad you chose to watch me, and even if this is in the future, you still chose to watch, and I appreciate it. What I would like to point out, and for you to remember, is we do have that link in the description below to our donation page. With the donations, we take anything as low as $1. It does go straight to my PayPal, And the good news is it is a donation. So that's technically tax deductible if you worry about such things. So please, please donate away. You'll get a shout out on the channel. Hopefully a little graphic will appear right over on that side of the screen. Kind of in the corner right here if you're just looking at the art stuff. And donations always are appreciated, no matter how little they are. Can't thank you enough for it. So let's dive in. We've been streaming already for about 5 years, and I've got nothing done. So we're just going to kind of move forward and see what we can find here. This one is one of those pieces that will take me a lot longer than usual. Mainly just because of the quality of the reference image. And, you know, my client who was going ahead.
Why is Hagrid all?
Because he was outside and the sprinklers came.
Oh, okay. I was just wondering because I'm feeling him.
Oh,
like,
wow.
His whole body's wet.
Yes.
Hell away from me.
Wondering why the dog's wet. It was the sprinklers. The sprinklers attacked him.
Because, like, I had no idea how he could have possibly gotten that wet.
He was outside. He was enjoying his time outside, and guess what happened? The sprinklers turn on, and he gets scared. He got scared of the sprinklers.
Why he came over and put his head on me like, "Mommy, fix me."
But yes, the sprinklers attacked. Act.
Here's a semi-dirty.
Anyway, sorry for the interruption. But my client did the best he could in terms of getting as good of a reference as he can, and I work with it. I'll work with it and see what we can do. The painting portion that I'm going to be doing is going to not have as much detail in it as usual when I do the painting portion. I tend to do the airbrush detail as much as possible. I just like the little bit of smoothness and everything. But in this instance, what I'm thinking I'm going to end up doing is mostly colored pencil is what I'm going to be mostly attempting with this one. And we'll see. We'll see what happens overall. If you haven't noticed as well, in terms of production, I do have my green screen chroma keyed out behind me. Not very well. I'm still getting used to that kind of stuff, but you'll be able to see at least more of the art as I'm doing it. It's kind of fun, kind of weird. Luckily, I don't have too many green shirts, because that would get awkward. However, I did realize that not only is my mouse bright green, but so is my chair. So if I do ever get up during the stream, you might see a ghost chair with pieces hovering and all types of stuff. Whatever. So, getting into low quality references and stuff like that, the way I've done my images, like when I was first getting started and everything, was a trial and error when it came down to get things going. And one of the main errors that I would always make would be I didn't care about the quality of the reference that I would be using. And it was what I was learning and everything, so I'm not too taken aback by the audacity of myself. But what ends up happening when you have a low quality reference, and even if you don't use any type of tracing method or the grid method or anything like that, even if you don't use any of that, low quality reference always causes headaches. A lot of headaches, I'm not gonna lie. Mainly because if you can't see the detail, then it's tough to really make things look photoreal, or at least as much of photoreal as you can. And that's where your skills as an artist need to really come in. And I spent literally hours trying to get the sketch of the face looking right and stuff. And honestly, I'm still not too happy with it. I had to kind of assume what her smile would look like with her mouth closed and stuff like that, which, depending on the person, it can be hard to do for me at least. I'm sure if there's any other artists out there who are watching, they probably are giggling at me and going, "That's not that hard." Well, it is for me so far. I'll get better at it. That's all. Practice makes perfect, or whatever types of fun stuff I can throw at you and impart knowledge with. Um, but this I'm determined. I'm going to make sure that this is as good of a portrait as any. Once it's done, it's going to be a challenge overall. I'm trying to do the best I can with it, and um, the eyes right now I think are just a little too bright, um, and stuff of that nature. I'm kind of trying to fix at least a little bit with the airbrush. Add some shading in. Uh, it's trying to keep the same lighting as much as possible without having the face all washed out is a hard thing to do for this picture. Personally. And if you're out there and you're watching, throw a comment below, or if you're watching on live, a chat or anything, if you have any tips or links or anything that could kind of help out when anybody who has a little bit of a struggle with anything. Love to share stuff. I really am a huge proponent of art being a community, and it's kind of tough when you think about it, especially if you're mainly focusing on advertisement art and stuff like that. But it can be done. It can be done. Always share, techniques with people and everything, because that's what I do. Or at least I try to. And sometimes they listen, sometimes they don't. And then I try to listen. And there's some days when I don't listen, because I get stubborn too, just like any other normal human being out there. I get pretty stubborn pretty easily. One thing I'm trying as much as possible to avoid in this piece is having my colors be too saturated, because I really want everything else to kind of to pop as much as possible. So I'm not trying to have one skin tone be outrageous compared to the rest or anything like that. And I say trying because normally my pieces I work very saturated, and it's something I'm trying to get away from. I'd love to have a little bit more subtlety either in my skin tones or anything like that. And with this particular piece, the one thing I do like is it looks like it end up being pretty solid when it comes to most things here. So let's continue on and see what we have going here today. And I'm still working with this this YouTube stream and stuff and everything. So Please, if you have any hints or if my audio levels are too high or anything crazy like that, please let me know. Um, and I can do some live adjusting, hopefully at least a little bit, kind of help out. And if the live adjusting doesn't work, then I can fix it, for the next stream. But definitely keep me in the loop as to whether or not things are going pretty well there. Alright, so far the face is coming out way better than I wanted. Well, not wanted, than I expected. Um, so I am going to take a break from her face and move on to his. And get some of that detail in there that's so needed. If my Photoshop wants to not crash on me, that would be swell. There we go. Always a reason to save every single given moment. Now, with his face, I was just really doing rough color so far. Like I said, I'm trying to avoid saturated colors as much as possible, and as you can tell from the original piece, it is nothing but saturated color, for the most part. Not completely, but for the most part. So I am trying to, while keeping the shadows there, trying to tone them down a bit, at least on the face. And hopefully be able to bring out some detail in the drawing side of things then. Or at least the painting side. Sketch-wise, I kept it really loose with this sketch. More so than, like, say, my Freddy piece, which I'll probably go in and do some work on in this stream later today. When it comes down to it, but with the Freddy piece, I made sure pretty much every single detail was in there. Every line had a purpose. Every purpose, had a line or something else. I don't know. I'm rambling tonight. It's a Monday. You have to forgive me. Did not have the best of weekends, to put it lightly. Had car troubles, and still do have the car troubles. Need to kind of fix that there. Have car troubles over the weekend, and my son lost a shoe due to car troubles. It was just a bad week in general, and the weekend was not kind. So I'm still a little out of sorts, and I didn't do too much art over the weekend and stuff because, believe it or not, when I'm not live streaming, I usually am not working with the art that often. I'm kidding. I do it all the time. But this weekend I didn't. I didn't really do too much. I just more tried to decompress from the insanity of what was going on, and having car trouble is not a huge issue unless you have a 4-year-old who is getting upset, and rightfully so, about being stuck in the heat, which was about 100 degrees out when I started to have the car trouble. But being stuck in the heat and not getting to go to the park he wanted to go to and stuff like that. Life lesson number 1: never promise you're going somewhere until you're actually there if you have a crappy car. But the thing that affected him the most was the loss of that shoe. Big ordeal with that shoe, but that's alright. So, trying to get hair looking right at this level is pretty much a moot point. I'm just getting in as much as I can now. You'll see here, and this was a stylistic choice on my behalf, is the trunk of the tree that's behind him kind of shoots off in this direction here and everything, and uh, I drew it in mainly because he does have very long hair and he does have a ponytail. And instead of having the ponytail just not be shown and it wouldn't, feel quite like him, I decided to just convert the area where the tree trunk would be into his ponytail. And it ended up oddly working. And I was kind of happy that it at least worked out that way. And we'll see what happens in a little bit here, but I'm banking on this turning out a little bit better than it currently is. Try and get this whole thing done here. I'll throw some white in his eyes, which normally I don't have eyes be this white, but right now I'll make sure that I at least get them looking like their eyeballs, because they're really not at all. Alright, so what I'm going to do here then, let me just see. Let's see. I try when it comes to skin tones and the flesh colors and stuff, I try not to use pure black. I'll use very, very dark reds for areas like this, which is a total technique from like Struzan and stuff like that. Trying to get eyes to look right, especially when someone's squinting, is not fun. I've never really took on a piece that had such harsh lighting, that didn't have much in terms of detail to be able to kind of look to. And this is where I kind of get to prove my merit as an artist if I cared, and kind of really prove that I know what I'm doing if anybody thought that I didn't. But I'm not really worried about it. A lot of people wish I was worried about it, and I used to worry about it all the time. Today is not that day. I'm here to draw mustaches, paint some faces, and hopefully give my friend here a good portrait, and hope he has a real good anniversary when it comes by. Mustache does give a little bit of a headache every now and then, but not too shabby. Yeah, this lighting is definitely not the best, and I can't speak for the time period or anything when he got married. I honestly, I don't really remember what year it is. I know it was, I believe, from the looks of it, looks like it was I believe the 80s was when he got married. Maybe early 90s, but I don't know if he had an actual photographer or anything like that, or if these are just snapshots. Um, but when I finish this art-wise, I'm looking for it to be a real good keepsake that they'll have around and kind of go from there. One time when it came to a piece of art that I did, um, one of my coworkers was like, "Oh, you do art? I want to commission something for my husband. He's really into horror movies, etc., etc., blah blah blah." And she commissioned two portraits, one of Dr. Loomis, one of Michael Myers, as kind of a companion thing for him. And I got in trouble, and it was hilarious. The reason I got in trouble is once he received the prints and he was excited about the art, he took down their wedding photo in the living room and hung up my art instead and said that those were infinitely more important. So, yeah, I personally found it absolutely hilarious, and then that particular coworker did not like me much after that. Because I caused a fight in their marriage, apparently. To which I said to myself, I really did not. I provided two pieces of art that you thought would be perfect for your companion, and they were more than perfect. They were adored above your marriage. What does that say about your marriage? I didn't actually say that, but I did think it. And I laughed about thinking about it. Because really, that's kind of ridiculous. One, that he did it, because let's be honest, who would think that their spouse or companion would be fine with having the wedding photo removed to put up that? And two, the fact that she really actually got angry that her husband did that and blamed me for it. Whatever. I get blamed for a lot of things at times. Trying to work in as little saturation as possible is definitely harder for me than I anticipated when I made that conscious decision to do so. That's alright. Like I said, this piece in general is going to be one of those pieces that I do have to do trial and error on to kind of go through there. And I can't paint 100% what I see, because if I painted what I saw and just kind of worked off of that and not what I know of the person or anything like that, it would not make for a very good painting. It would be very, very bland overall. Because all I'd be doing is just painting blobs of color with no real form. Which, I mean, that's what I do when it comes to the initial color and stuff like that, of course, but then I clean it up and I make it look nice and pretty and kind of go from there. So, the main thing that I always notice in when it comes to low quality photography on references and stuff is most people don't realize how low the quality is, even after they scan it in. Because think about it, if you're an artist, or even if you're not an artist, if you're looking at a picture, usually if it's a printed picture from a camera, it has good quality. for as far as you can see. It's, you know, a little 4x5 piece of paper with a picture on it. If you took that picture and blew it up by just taking a camera phone picture of it or something and thought, man, that's going to look awesome, and then you zoom in, this is kind of what you get. Now, that's not what happened in this instance. It just was, he had the original photography and he did scan it in for me. The scanner itself just wasn't the best of quality scanner, which really, how many people have scanners anymore? I don't really know of hardly any, unless it comes on their printer, which mine doesn't because I have a printer specifically for art stuff. But you know, a lot of people don't know how to use their scanners, or just they have a printer that they've had forever which prints out stuff awesomely, and then, you know, someone like me steps in and is like, hey, I need you to use your scanner. I need, you know, at least 350 DPI, and I, you know, would give all the rules and everything, and they just kind of, okay, and that's the way it goes. In this instance, he was really accommodating. The first quality photo was not even as good as this one. He went back to the original photography. He scanned it in for me. The scanner itself, however, didn't seem to want to grab detail nearly as much as scanners should. Not sure why, but that happens. But you know, it's gonna turn out all right. It's gonna take me a little bit longer. Normally, I can with the portrait like this, where it's mostly just bodies and stuff like that. It's pretty quick process overall, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it does take a little bit here, and I need to grab some of those other references real quick because I think this was just white with a little bit of color in there, but I'm not sure. So I'm pulling up my references that he sent me to emails, through the emails as it were, and just double checking what color those flowers on his lapel are there. Alright, so yeah, it's mostly white in the center, with some greenery around them. So perfect. There's a shot I was looking for. That will help. Okay. So yeah, it's just a bunch of baby's breath around the outside and stuff like it thought there would be. Perfect. So let's go in and get some of that in there. First thing I am going to do is get the green in there. The greenery behind it. So I want to try to not be too saturated with things, because it's just gonna cause a headache if I get too saturated. And I mean that in actually kind of the most literal of senses. If you have colors too saturated, which, like I said, I kind of been recently learning the hard way. If you have too many saturated colors, it just kills your eyes. And if it's killing your eyes, it's not doing much good for the artwork either. Baby's breath, getting some baby's breath included. Do 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 do. All right. Don't ask me why I was singing. I don't know. That's one thing. If you're new to the stream, I do randomly bust into song, and usually not very well, kind of randomly. Um, just because sometimes you have to get that tune out of your head that might be stuck in there, unless it's copyrighted. Please don't sue me. But copyright woes are not fun to work with, and that's something I'm going to talk about today. Because I had a recent odd copyright infringement thing going on. It was pretty bad. um, uh, so if you watched one of my first streams, is before I started this actual show itself. I was just kind of live streaming art and just drawing and stuff like that. I had no working microphone that was worthwhile at all. I'd have to grab it and hold it up to my mouth, talk like this, and that did not make for compelling video at the time, because it'd be, if I wanted to talk to you, I'd have to stop what I was doing, pick up the microphone, and talk. If I wanted to draw, I had to stop drawing, or if I wanted to draw, I had to stop talking, put down the microphone, and then continue drawing. So I couldn't kind of freeform thought my way through stuff. So what I did to kind of kill the silence, because it was just a deafening silence happening on the video, and to kill the silence, I decided, hey, I've been in a multitude of bands growing up. I'm going to play some of their music in the background, so that way there's not nearly as big of a void when it comes to silence on the stream. And I thought to myself, this was a brilliant idea. Because normally, if I'm just doing art for the sake of doing art by myself, it's a lot of listening to, copyrighted music. I'd have like Mastodon in the background, some Slayer, Pink Floyd, and whatever worked for the mood I was trying to paint in, I would have on. And I knew that wouldn't fly on YouTube, because that's just the way it goes. People want their little slice of the pie, and I monetize my videos, so there's little ads here and there and stuff, and that's how I try to make at least a little extra money off of this crazy thing. And don't forget, donation link below. And I don't want to lose out on even the few pennies I'd end up getting from these streams. And believe me, with only 58 or 59 subscribers, it literally is pennies that I end up getting. So that's why I set up the donations and stuff, because, hey, ad revenue is awesome, but donations are awesome too. So I played some of my music. I was thinking everything was going to be fine. Things were going well for the stream, for my first try at doing it, and going from there. And what ended up happening, ironically enough, is it popped up as soon as the stream was done and uploaded to YouTube, because I was doing the stream on Twitch, which is where I do all my gaming streams. So follow me on Twitch at ThatStevenRice, and I'll probably be playing some Minecraft over there tonight. I'm doing my stream. No. Xander was playing with them. I don't know what happened to him. Back in the living room. Thank you. Please close the door. Sorry. I don't enjoy talking when other people are in the room. So, back to what I was saying. I thought everything was going to be fine. And, mainly because it was bands I was in, it was recordings I was on. And you would think, well, there wouldn't be anything wrong. So as soon as the video uploaded to YouTube, I get a message, your video has been unmonetized due to copyright. Okay. I look and it, says the notice and everything like that, and who the copyright was being for and everything, and it was for the record company, which is just a fun friend-run record company. That it was put out on, and said it's for them and all this other kind of stuff, and I'm just staring at it in kind of disbelief, like, really, this obscure hardcore punk band that I was in has a team of people looking out to make sure that it's not used, and it's an automated system, I know that, but I just found it really darkly ironically funny that I did that for the sole purpose of avoiding copyright stuff, and it got copyright strike pretty much immediately. So I of course go ahead, file the disputes, I chuckle about it, I post about it on my personal Facebook and stuff, and I tag my friend Chris, who still runs the Square of Opposition Records. And we have a quick chortle about it. Everything's fine. And I told him I disputed it, so everything should be fine. Don't worry about it. Okay, no big deal. 4 days later, I get an email back that the dispute has been closed and that the company deemed it to still be a valid copyright situation, and that if I was to try and have another dispute, that it was very likely that they would just take the video down permanently. Now, I don't take well to stuff like that, so I actually got angry at this point, and I posted the tale on my my personal Facebook, which is locked down except for just friends and stuff like that, and eventually I emailed the company directly and explained things. You can't tell me that I'm not a rights holder to this music. It was a handshake deal, blah blah blah. And then I messaged my friend and was like, dude, they're trying to basically take down the video completely because of playing the music. And he even thought, okay, that's ridiculous. And it took about a week, but eventually they rescinded and even apologized and everything like that. And it just was funny that things you try to do to avoid any type of copyright infringement can still come back and bite you right in the bum, and cause all types of headaches, even when you have the best of intentions. So that's why my streams are mostly silent, except for my voice, which I am not a fan of, but it is the only instrument I have that can be non-copywritten at this point. Plus, I like talking. I like talking about experiences and stuff of that nature. In general. But yeah, I with this piece, there's a lot of sheer fabrics and stuff like that, which I am not the best at. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to end up painting it to look that way quite yet. Once I decide on a background, I think it'll end up becoming a lot easier. But the coming up with the background part usually doesn't come till later. So it's going to probably look pretty odd in these areas and stuff like that for now, because I just kind of hated where the overlap was, and I'm going from there. Ooh, I completely forgot his hand. But I'm almost done with just the basic layout of color. I need to fill in the flowers here and get this hand going here. But yeah, in a previous stream, I kind of explained about my reasoning for really disliking being interrupted um, when it comes to doing the stream and stuff like that, except for by my son. I kind of enjoy when he comes in because he does his own live streams, as I said, and he likes watching the process every now and then. But luckily, he is laying down right now and probably falling asleep in the next half hour or so, which is a little late for him. But we had a kind of slow and boring day today, which is what Daddy needed after this weekend. Because even Father's Day was really not a big event at all. So, like I did state earlier in the stream, if you are watching it and have any questions or just want to talk about art or anything like that, definitely please utilize the chat. I'd love to be as interactive as possible when it comes down to this stuff because it helps me fill the void a little bit too. Try not to repeat too much of the same stuff on these streams, but that's the way it goes. So please, if you're out there and you have any questions about art or anything really, I'd be more than happy to chat it up with you and see how life goes and live, laugh, and learn together. Or whatever. If you don't want to chat, you don't have to chat. It's not really a huge issue. One thing that I did want to talk about is the legal side of art, more so than just the YouTube copyright infringement fiasco. As I mentioned, I had some bad clients, and the bad client episode was episode 1, I believe, is when I talked about those. And that bad client experience changed the way I do business. And if you want to hear the full story about what happened with that and everything, go ahead, watch episode 1. I try to keep these videos and the streams to about 2 hours maximum. And that's just for my sanity's sake, and I don't think anybody really wants to listen more than that. I know my average watch time is about 20 minutes. So the fact that people are even watching that long is awesome, and I thank everybody who does stick out for the long haul if they do, or at least hangs out with me for 20 minutes and then goes off to Never Never Land, or where they end up going, I do not know. But the bad client that I had when I was doing a animal portrait fundamentally changed my entire way of doing business, and that really came to a head over the weekend. Actually, just earlier today, I finished this part up. So I was contacted by a director to go ahead and do an animation sequence for a Kickstarter. Kind of help them get some funding and everything. They didn't have locations or cast or anything fully ready to actually shoot a teaser, but they really, really wanted to move forward and get the Kickstarter rolling. And they had, their crowdfunding videos all done and set up, and they kind of let me see that. And this was a while ago because I actually did poster art for them. But the teaser was something that they really wanted me to kind of do. And I laid out some ideas, and I laid out a price and everything that I thought was fair for what I was willing to put into it at the time. And it kind of went nowhere, which was fine because I didn't fully lock myself into it or anything. And eventually, the director called me up, and he's one of my friends at this point. When we first started the project, we were just didn't know each other at all, but he became one of my friends over the years, and contacts me. He's like, "Hey, with that teaser, I have a phone number for you to call, and I want you to talk to this guy because he says he wants to help fund and help out this movie any way he can." All right, so I put up a fight because it involved me going outside my comfort zone and actually talking to a real live human being over a telephone, which does not ever sit well with me. I'm terrified of telephones and talking to people. But he said that would be the only way that the funding for the teaser motion comic could come to fruition. He couldn't find anybody else, and this guy insists on, handling business like a businessman. That's fine. So I sucked it up. I made the call. The guy was really nice, really outgoing. Definitely way more so than I am, outgoing wise. And said that everything sounds good, and he wanted me to write up a proposal for him. I can do that. Proposals I can do. I can email and stuff like that with the best of them. So I go ahead and I do it. I lay out the original plan that I had for it, and some additional packages as well. Because this guy, like I said, I'm still, there's no contract or anything yet, so I'm being very, very vague on purpose. So don't get uppity about why I'm being vague. But this guy here, he made it very abundantly clear that the first package that I was thinking about doing for the teaser was woefully cheaper than what he expected. And he did kind of mention that, if there was more money involved, would I be able to do more than what I originally pitched? Well, of course. More money means the fact that I don't need to worry about bills and rent for that period of time. Of course, if you want to throw some more money in, and it would become a full-time job for me for a certain amount of time. So I put together a series of different packages for this gentleman and emailed them over. And they ranged from the absurdly low, here's what I got, here's what I can possibly do for you in 5 days. Here's what I can do for you in 15 days. So on and so forth. I kept it very flowing so that he could go through the packages, talk it over with the director if he wanted to, and really get a sense on what he'd be looking at. And I was talking with the director and everything, and he was like, "You just need to make sure you stay on him about this. This guy's been asking me a lot to help out on a movie, and I figured putting him in direct contact with you would prove to him that he wouldn't just be throwing money at somebody and then hoping things gets made. He'd be involved, and oh my god, that makes sense. Okay, I understand." So I was joking around with him. I was like, "Yeah," and I put a Hail Mary kind of package on there. Like a 2-month package for X amount of dollars. Wouldn't that be hilarious if we were able to actually get that done, because it would be a heck of a teaser for that amount for you, because I'd be able to put in about a month and a half, almost 2 months work of 8-hour days on this teaser for you. It'd be fantastic. I'd be really happy, not just money wise, but in general. I just think it would be awesome for you to have the best teaser you possibly could. And, he joked around too. He's like, "Yeah, that would never happen, but hey, that's that's the dream, man. That's why, you and me worked well together, because we can do stuff and get stuff done, and everything's awesome. So a bit of time goes by. I don't really hear anything back from this particular person, and eventually I shot out an email. Hey, what's the status? Oh, I've been really busy. We'll get together. We'll talk about the finalized stuff within the next couple days. All right, not a worry. Guy emails me back. He goes, I was speaking it over with the director, and basically checking which package he would want to do, and all of them seemed more than fair. Just kind of going over what was kind of happening, and we're just kind of reading through, and I was kind of relegated, thinking it was probably going to be one of the the mid-range packages that allow me to at least be able to pay rent for the month and stuff like that, because that's always a worry. And the very last line is, we're going to go for, and I'm just going to call it the Hail Mary package. That's the one we decided on. So, and then he asked for details on payment, and I told him, what the down payment would be and everything like that. Still in my mind thinking that there's no way this is actually going to pan out, because it's one, and it still hasn't panned out yet. So it's very possible that it still might not. But it's one of those, if I get this particular job at this particular price point, at this particular moment in my my career, it would be something that'll move me forward quite a bit. So I emailed the director, and I was like, here's what he said that you guys decided on. And the director himself was just like, okay, well, yeah, that's what I mentioned would be awesome if we could do. I didn't think he was actually willing to do that. Like, well, he said he did. And in the email at the end, it said that we would get together and finalize the details, either over the phone or through email, whichever way, as soon as possible. So I just kind of let that ride for about 4 or 5 days, and started to not hear anything back, and getting a little nervous on it, because with a project that big of what they wanted, I really needed to plan out where my commissions are going to be for the month of July and August and stuff like that. So I go ahead and email him, just to kind of see what the status is and everything, make sure we're a go or what's happening. And he goes, no, we are absolutely a go. What I'd like to do is have you write up a contract, and once the contract's written up and everything, we can get this going 100%. I'm all in. We're all in. All right. So that gets to the point of our story. I tell stories very long. But we the point of the story here is, I had to learn very quickly the finer arts of writing contracts. And the reason for this, not only was it going to be to protect my butt if anything were to happen, because it's a very, very big project, but also to ensure that things are nice and legal for something like this, because this is for a movie. And I spent a lot of time researching different contracts and stuff, and there's paid services out there and everything that you can go ahead and you sign up for. You fill out a couple forms, and they'll write up the contract for you. Bada bing, bada boom. I didn't want to do that in this instance, because I wanted to learn the what's and whys of the contracts to kind of help me move forward. So I did tons upon tons of research. and came to the ultimate conclusion of I definitely can write this up. This is gonna be pretty good. And it took me about, on and off, I'd say about 4 or 5 hours to really get it written. Of course, typing it didn't take 4 or 5 hours, but I wanted to make sure I was using proper legal terms and put in every little bit into the contract that needed to be there. And it was weird to me while I was doing it. And the reason why is it's one of those things where, yeah, I've fantasized about being a full-time artist. Anybody who's an artist on any level, that's still considered an amateur level, would love to make a living off their art. That's just the way it is. That's why we're artists. We all have stuff to say, and we all have hopes and dreams to get out there, and we have images in our heads that we need to get out there, and it's not selling out if you make money off of art, no matter how much some people may say it's that way. It's always a good thing to make money off of your art. As long as you're doing what you want to do with your art, and it's always a good thing, and it's always a desire. Because if you can avoid having to go into an office building for 8 hours a day, at minimum, or avoid having to walk into a McDonald's for 15-hour shifts just to be able to provide for your family. If you can avoid doing that and make a living off of your art, that is what people would love to do. And it's a scary thing to really think that could be a possibility. And that's why I really focused on this contract to make sure that it was nice and legal, because I know the director of this project very, very well, but the partner that he's working with to help get the teaser funded, I don't know him. No offense to him, I don't know him. So I wanted an actual legal contract that protected me and everybody else involved from any type of headache. I put in provisions that I can still utilize my art for promotional purposes, say like on this channel and things of that nature. That's all in there. Also in the contract is what rights the director has as well, and everything is in there for a reason, and it's all there to protect everybody's interests. It's nothing's in there, or even nothing in there is even worded slightly odd at all. Everything's very cut and paste and clear, and everything. Yet still very, very much so legal. And it was kind of when I was doing that, I kind of hit the turning point of thinking to myself, this is getting real, like strongly real now. You're truly moving forward in your art career. Even if, say, it doesn't pan out, say something in the contract doesn't sit well with the financier or something like that, it's still my career's moved forward that one extra step. That extra step of knowing the legalities. And the contract, the way I wrote it up, is it's modular. So future projects over a certain price threshold, I can just kind of, remove some things, move some things around, and everything is kind of good and copacetic, and everything's awesome. I don't need to rewrite the contract really, thankfully, because having a kind of go-to contract, I'm very happy for, because writing up contracts and stuff like that is a less than desirable position to be in. And every um, artist eventually has to learn that stuff, because there's not many trustworthy people out there. I mean, even, if you haven't seen Drew Struzan's documentary, which I think is still on Amazon, called Drew, Man Behind the Poster, they talk about his original partners that he would work with who would help him, strike deals and stuff like that, and how they were taking most of the money, and writing up the contracts for him and everything. They took most of the money, and they kept all of the artwork and all this other kind of stuff. They're, really putting the screws to Drew when it came down to it, from what I saw and what, they were saying in the documentary. And even more so in Drew Struzan's book, they kind of go into it a little bit more, to where, he even talks about the fact that he had to be his own lawyer at that point, writing up, the proper legal documents and everything. So it's something that I know I have to do, is to kind of make sure I have legal documentation for everything that I do. Now, if it's a small private commission for a friend that I've known for, a decade, or, however long I might have known the person for, or a family member or something like that, I'll still work off of handshake deals, and, here's my PayPal, just shoot me a couple bucks and I'll do something for you, kind of thing. And there's a couple other people out there who I trust, doing handshake deals with, who have done, a lot of good work for artists and stuff. But overall, I have to keep legal. I have to do those contracts and stuff, and it's the very non-glamorous part of the entire process. And let's be honest, being an artist, it's not glamorous to begin with. It's just not. It's not meant to be. When you're doing art, when art first became a thing that people did for film advertisements and stuff, there was a time period where artists weren't even allowed to sign their own work. They weren't allowed to. Some of the most famous artists out there who have done posters that you've seen everywhere, they were not allowed to sign the poster art at all. Just weren't allowed to do it. And some of them got around that. I think Drew Struzan came up with kind of a I think it's, if I remember correctly, it's kind of like an S kind of shape in a box kind of thing that he does, or did. He's allowed to sign his artwork now, because artists became important again for a brief period of time. But and other artists would just hide their name as tastefully as possible places and stuff, and that kind of got worked into the style. That's what became kind of hip to do then. Is you have your artwork and you have your little logo or something like that, and you just pop it in wherever you can. And I kind of like that in a way, but it's people who think that art and artists and stuff like that is a glamorous position to be in don't have those type of realizations yet. That's fine. It took me a while too. I used to have my logo, which, if you ever seen a finished piece of my art, my logo is, I wouldn't say it's too out there. Honestly, it's just my signature in a stylized triangle. Illuminati confirmed. But I used to pretty much have it be gigantic on my pieces. Just because I was like, people need to know I did this art. That's how the world is going to appreciate my art. By seeing this randomly askewed triangle that almost looks like an anarchy symbol, but it's not supposed to be, so I slightly change it every single time. They're going to see this. They're going to be like, I want to be that guy. He's going to be the poster artist of the next millennium. I never actually thought any of that. But it was kind of funny. But I did have giant logos. And eventually I just saw the irony of me trying to make it in the art business and having an ego about it a little bit. Being like, people need to know my name. Well, no, they need to know my art. They need to know, who worked on the campaign. They need to go, okay, well, let me get in touch with that company and see who they used as an artist. That's what I want to have happen. I want to design a t-shirt, which I will be designing a t-shirt hopefully very shortly for a friend's company. I want to design a t-shirt. I want to have somebody wear that shirt, sometime in the future, and I want to go, man, that was my shirt. I want to see somebody wearing it out in the wild, maybe, or something like that, and just feel really accomplished like that. Because that's a type of accomplishment. Is if I'm going to be able to see my own, art on a shirt. And I have prints and stuff, of course, but that's my next thing. Is I really want to see my art on a shirt. That's my next goal, and I think I'm gonna be hitting that goal very shortly, or at least finishing up or starting the actual project itself soon. That's going to be really nice to get to do. Basically, I already spoke with a company. They already gave me an assignment and stuff, so I'm excited to get to work on that. That one I will not be live streaming at all, just due to confidentiality and stuff like that. But once I can put a little bit of information out there, oh, you can guarantee I will. I'm going to be so hyped once I can share with you some things, because it's the shirts for something that I truly love growing up, franchise-wise, and really looking forward to starting the process on that. So keep an eye on my website, keep an eye on my Twitter, my Instagram, stuff like that, and stay up to date on things. My Instagram I haven't updated in a little bit, other than doing really weird videos lately. I don't know why, but I just really wanted to do pompous, pretentious videos for a little bit, and at one point uploaded a 3-minute video to my Facebook of just me sitting and eating cereal. I think I've been watching too much Twin Peaks. I'm lying. There's no such thing as too much Twin Peaks. If you're a fan of Twin Peaks and you don't like the revival, there's something wrong. There's just something wrong with your brain, and I'm not sure what it is, but you should get it looked at, get it checked out, because minus a few quirks here and there, a couple quibbles and things like that, the new show is pretty phenomenal, in my opinion. My humble opinion. I think it's phenomenal. Last night I was working on this piece a little bit, and had my second monitor set up off to the side, same way I do here, so I can watch your guys live chat and stuff like that. And instead of doing the stream and stuff, which like I said, I'm not gonna be doing them on weekends at all. It's gonna be kind of a Monday through Friday thing, and until I figure out a possibly a little bit better of a schedule. I'm thinking like maybe like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday thing, or something similar. But I'll announce if I'm going to do any changes to the schedule as much as I can. That's why it's important to follow me on Twitter, because that's where I do most of my announcements. Like, when I was going to be going live with this, I announced it on Twitter. I didn't announce it anywhere else. I didn't announce it on my Facebook or anything. So hopefully everyone that's out there subscribed, hit the little notification icon, which since I'm at a different position, it's kind of over there now. It used to be right here, but now it's over there because I moved the position of my screen to where I'm sitting here. But make sure if you do like my videos, if you like the live streams, please subscribe and hit the notification bell, because you never know when things might change for me. I right now don't have a 9-to-5 job. I'm working just as an artist, but that possibly can't last forever. There's going to possibly be a time where I need to get a regular 9-to-5 job again. And that happens, I don't want to stop the streams at all, but it's going to have to work around a work schedule then, which probably means 9:45 at night isn't going to be the best of times to do a 2-hour live stream. It might need to be earlier or later, or cut down to once or twice a week instead of an every night thing. So please subscribe and hit the notification bell, because otherwise I'll be lonely. I'll be sitting here all alone, and the two of you who are watching, who aren't saying anything in chat, will make me feel even more alone if you're not notified that I'm live and I'm streaming. Don't let me be lonely. But for real, I think that when it comes to this stream, that it's not going anywhere for a while. Even if I do have to get a 9-to-5 job sometime in the future again, I'm going to keep it going, because I'm having a lot of fun sharing processes and everything of that nature as much as I can with everybody who's out there. So where I'm at here in terms of the art itself, I'm pretty much at the point where if you're looking over here, the airbrushing is pretty much done, as much as I want to do it. Of course, you can get infinitely more detailed with airbrush. I know that. But for this piece, I really want to get in there with colored pencil. I think it's going to look better with more colored pencil than it will with airbrush. The more I kind of look at it, I'll be able to get a little bit finer details in there. So that's where we're at right now with it. I'm going to dive in, and we're going to get some colored penciling going in here. So if this is your first video of mine that you've watched, I use pencils and all that kind of stuff from Kyle Webster's pack. His mega pack is what most of my stuff comes from. Reason for it is it's really good stuff. That's all. I don't get kickbacks or anything like that. I just am a huge fan of what he's been able to bring to Photoshop in terms of realism with his brushes, because they're phenomenal. If you're not looking for colored pencils or anything like that, that's fine. because guess what? He has oil paints, watercolors, all that type of insane stuff that I don't really do yet. And I say yet because I don't like to be stagnant. I like to try to learn new things as much as possible and kind of go from there. You'll notice when I do colored pencil work, I concentrate a lot more and onto where I'm placing my lines, whereas when I'm doing the airbrush, I'm kind of very freeform. Airbrush is where I just kind of let the piece itself just kind of become whatever it's going to become in a very non-traditional freeform kind of manner. When I go in with a colored pencil, I try to make every line mean something. And I say try because it is not an exact science for me. I'm still trying to learn colored pencil techniques and stuff like that. Because that's, like I said, with the brushes from Kyle Webster, they act like real colored pencils. And what I mean by that, just to kind of show you, like say I go into his pencil mix tool here. I'll just show you on a different layer real quick. Say we start off, we have this purple here, which I'm not pressing too hard. You can see acts very much so like a pencil. And then we have this orange here. And we mix a little bit of the orange in there. And then when you're picking, you start to draw in there, take a look, you can see how it kind of cuts into itself. Just like colored pencils tend to do. They'll mix and they'll blend and all types of stuff. So got a little blue in here. Just make this whole world so very 80s. That's, you know, when I first started doing art in Photoshop, when I was still in art school, this wasn't even, you wanted something to look like a colored pencil? Come on. Just go get your colored pencils and step away. Not so much anymore. It's insane how it gets like that. But yes, if you're interested in the brushes, I think his website's kylebrush.com. I definitely would suggest, if you're serious about it, pony up a little bit of the money. It's not that expensive. It's under $20, I think, for the mega pack that he has. And mega pack has literally hundreds, and I mean hundreds of brushes. So you can't go wrong with that. There's people out there that charge $5-10 per brush, and that's just ridiculous, especially when they're nowhere near as good as these particular brushes. And I implore you to check them out. If you want to tell them that I sent you, by all means do. Maybe hook me up with like a free watercolor set or something. Experiment with. I'm not very good at watercolors, but I don't share my love of his brushes for any gain. I really don't. They're just awesome. They helped my art just skyrocket. So that's where we're at with that. So I'm going in here and doing stuff that I do to taste. Some of it might not be correct, if you want to use that term. Um, I really, when it comes to the color pencil part, I kind of just do what feels right. Not everybody has a water line on their eye that is really pronounced. Especially when you look at this picture, there's no detail in her eyes. So I'm trying to put detail where there isn't. And I have a feeling in the original picture, there's not that much either. Um, just because the film stock back in the day and stuff like that is um, usually wasn't the best unless you were using a high-end camera for news photography or something like that, like the old Hasselblads and stuff of that nature. Most people didn't. Even most wedding photographers didn't have stuff like that. Uh, that's all right. Like I said, I'm going to be putting detail into this face and hopefully bringing a smile to her face in real life when it's all delivered and finished up and they have their anniversary and everything's good to go. We'll see. Good feeling when you see your art actually framed, though. That's one thing I will absolutely tell you. Is the first time I ever saw one of my prints, because I didn't do my own prints for a long time. I went through Society 6, which I still have my Society 6 page up for my older stuff, but I went through Society 6, so I would be selling prints and stuff, but I would never see them. I never got to actually see a piece of my artwork printed until I'm trying to think. It was after The Force Awakens came out. So it was about 2 years ago when I first saw my very first piece of artwork actually in a print. And it was my friend Ed got it for, I think it was actually Father's Day present. It was either Father's Day or his birthday. He got that print of I did a hand drawn rendition of one of the Force Awakens posters because I was so angry at Disney for not keeping up the tradition of hand painted posters for Star Wars. For Star Wars of any of any franchise out there, the one that pioneered the the artistic style of that century, of the 80s in general. Freaking Star Wars, they hire Struzan to do a Comic-Con poster, and it wasn't that great of a Comic-Con poster to begin with. I love Drew's work. There's hardly anything he's done that I dislike, and that's one that I didn't like how skewed it was. I didn't like the angle. I thought the likenesses weren't nearly as special as he's done in the past. And hey, it might have just been him too, just being like, why is the why are they contacting me about this? Why aren't I doing the original poster? I don't get it, kind of thing. I think he has a lot of pride when it comes to his art. He sounds very humble when he speaks and everything, but he's a salesman too, trying to sell himself, or at least he was trying to sell himself out there as much as he could. My cats are arguing with each other over food or something. I don't know what they're doing. But I got angry. So I took their character one sheets that they put out there. And they had the one with Han, they had the blaster up to his face, and they had Leia with the green, everything like that. If you're a Star Wars fan, you know which posters I mean. And I decided to use the Han Solo one as a reference just for my own peace of mind, basically. So I kept the same composition and everything like that, and I just changed up some things. I didn't use the official Star Wars Force Awakens logo. I drew up my own and added the Millennium Falcon, some TIE fighters, and stuff like that around it. And I didn't release prints of it. That was a one-off kind of thing that I did for a friend. I put it up literally for 15 minutes. They bought it, and I pulled it down. Because hell hath no fury like a Disney scorn. They would have brought down a hammer so hard on me if I would have actually sold those as prints. So I didn't. I was wise. Wise beyond my years. But I got to see it then. They invited me over for dinner one day, and he brought me down to his little film viewing area, kind of den, and I got to actually see it and see, a poster of mine blown up to full proportion, the entire, 24 by 36 painting, and I had a little bit of a tear in my eye, as cheesy as it sounds, but it felt good. You don't get too many moments in the art world when you're first starting out that really can hit you hard, and that was one of them. Seeing that made me feel good. Plain and simple. That's all it did. It didn't bring me a lot of money, because I went through Society 6. They handled most of it and brought me maybe, I think, $15 or something like that I got paid 6 months later for, but seeing it actually in print was awesome. I really loved seeing it that in print for the first time, and also hammered home the fact that Disney really needs to go back to hand-drawn posters. If the art form itself can't be dictated by boutique companies like that anymore. Like I when it comes to companies like Mondo and stuff, and I'd love to work with Mondo someday. But that can't be it. It can't be always limited edition stuff out there. Movie companies need to realize again that the poster art does matter. It really, really does matter. There's going to be people who don't care about the art. I understand that, but you know what? There's artists out there that are proving them wrong every single day. The guys who work for Mondo are proving the naysayers wrong every single day. Think of it this way. With Stranger Things, right? Kyle Lambert does this artwork for a Netflix show. It's never seen in theaters. It's never put out on DVD. It's, if you have Netflix, you see Stranger Things, and boom, you load up when Stranger Things came out. And I'm not talking about the merits of the show, because believe it or not, I hate the show. But Kyle Lambert's a friend, and his artwork for that show is phenomenal. They hired him to do artwork for something that would never see print, and he did it, and people loved it, and the marketing team loved it. The marketing team used it for practically everything. They used it for the soundtrack. They used it for billboards. And I don't know if he's going to be doing season 2 art or anything like that, but come on. How can a marketing director, or I'll put it to the studios, because I have a feeling with the marketing team probably still does want to do stuff like that, but the studios kind of bring down a band hammer. It's the feeling I get. I really think that marketing leads and stuff still want to do stuff like that, because frankly, those of us who have grown up watching movies and seeing, the posters in the theaters and seeing all the artwork from all the masters out there, um, we're starting to become of age where we're starting to have influence in one industry or the other. Um, there's going to be a paradigm shift eventually. It's going to happen. Eventually, those who did the marketing in the 90s, they're going to eventually be retiring. It's just inevitable. Retirements always inevitably happen. So eventually there's going to be passionate people out there for art again. And you watch certain documentaries about poster art or just artists in general and stuff, and you have people like Spielberg who goes on and on about how much he loves genuine, real, hand-drawn poster art. But he also, at the same time, disparages what he calls photoshopping, which I understand what he means, but he didn't explain it well. He means photo editing. That's what Spielberg means. Like, if you watch the Drew Struzan documentary, Spielberg talks about photo edits. He talks about the editing of photos with the big heads, faces split in half, and you know what I mean. If you're watching this, you like art in at least some way. You know what I mean about those posters, to where you can just... I'm getting off point. But he talks about the pixel pushers, as he puts in the documentary. And I think that he forgets that there are artists out there who still follow the traditions of art and who still do technique very much so the same way. Things have gotten easier. If you want to use an undo button, it's always readily there. You can make changes for the studios a lot easier now. But there's still some artists out there. And I think he forgets that. At least he did when he was talking about those types of scenarios, in my opinion. Because digital artists exist, much like myself, to still provide real, tangible artwork for people. And for companies and everything. We're out there doing it still to this day. What am I doing? Oh yeah. So it's forgotten sometimes that just because you use Photoshop as a tool, some people think that everything's easy, and no amount of posturing, saying to people, no, that's not true, will break down that barrier until somebody sees it happen. And not long after Stranger Things came out, I got a chance to actually talk with Kyle Lambert for just a little bit through email, just about what his thoughts were on the state of our industry at this point. And I made the point during it that it feels like there's a renaissance coming, but I don't know when or how long it's going to even last. the boutique companies like Mondo and even the boutique DVD companies like Scream Factory, Arrow, they're using real artists. Um, Toy companies use real artists still. It's out there. The work's out there. However, it's still not out there enough. And the one thing I do see lately, art wise, is sadly, some people just changing their styles completely just to get their foot in the door. And then not knowing where to go from there. Because I could go ahead and I could change my style and, blast out Illustrator stuff and everything, and maybe even get the chance to do a poster for Mondo or some company like that. But it wouldn't be my style, and I don't want to compromise my view of art in general and change a style completely around just for the fact of getting my foot completely in the door. It's one of those things where if someone came up to me and were like, "Hey, could you do a piece for us? We like your art. We'd like it to be a little bit closer to, I don't know. Let's say we want it to be a little bit closer to the way Edmonton does. Jason Edmonton. Can you do something kind of like that, but still with your own flair? Yeah, I can. I can give you that kind of look, somewhat. He's way better than I am. I'm not putting myself on the same pedestal as he is. But if someone wanted something a little bit closer to, another artist's style, kind of, I'd be willing to maybe bend my rule a little bit. But it would have to be the right circumstances. No one would. I'm not the artist that you would walk up to and be like, "So we really, really, really love your artwork. Can you do something in Saul Bass's style?" Do I look like I'm a Saul Bass style artist? Like even a little bit? I'm sorry, but I don't think I do. Could I probably maybe do it? Given enough time, maybe. I'm not sure on that one, to be honest with you. It's because it's completely different design language than what I do. I do portrait work and stuff like that right now, in a very distinct kind of realistic type of style. I guess what I'm getting at with this rambling, man, I'm rambling a lot tonight. I can't even believe it's almost 11:30. Um, but what I'm getting at is just art in general. Something big's got to be coming down the pipeline. I feel it, and I talked with some other people, and they kind of they feel the paradigm shift slightly. It's not there yet, but I think it's coming eventually. Especially with places like Netflix kind of buying into it a little bit, and they might not do it for every show, which that's fine, whatever. But the fact that they even did that, huge, huge, huge campaign for Stranger Things using hand drawn, well, it was digitally drawn, but drawn with a hand. It's still hand drawn. Doing hand drawn art, and they go ahead and they actually put the money and the effort to market their entire tentpole show of 2016 based off of that artwork it's astonishing and it's stunning, and I love the fact that it happened. I may have not enjoyed the show that much, but I don't have to enjoy a show to appreciate certain things. There's movies out there that had absolutely stunning artwork that the movie itself might hold some nostalgia value for me, but that was the one thing that used to happen back then. If they had a movie that they weren't quite sold on, they would go and they'd get a real illustrator to paint up something, phenomenal for them, so that when you're standing there in the theaters and you're watching, the lines and stuff like that, and you're just kind of waiting, sitting there, you're waiting and waiting and waiting, and there's the row of posters, something that would draw you in, and you would just stare at it. And that's what they wanted. They wanted people to remember the artwork. From the very beginning of that, they want people to remember the artwork, because that's how they could draw people in. And now they have trailers and they have interactive stuff online. And what I'm going to kind of leave off with tonight here is a thought. This is going to be my just thought moment while I finish up the podcast here tonight. Start thinking, as an artist, start thinking multimedia in a way. I'm not saying that if you're not comfortable with it that you have to go out and learn After Effects, that you have to go out and learn 3D modeling or anything like that. I'm not saying that. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is try to think the way media is now. A lot of media is consumed on phones. A lot of media is consumed on tablets. So my thought, and I'm sure other people have had this thought and I've seen it done before, but not to the extent that I'm thinking, is somehow, as artists, we have to break Hollywood down again. Whether it's starting through indie films, starting through Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, and showing them that having a real artist behind things is still the right way to go. And the way I envision it is more motion-based poster art. Like, imagine, for instance, say Jaws came out now instead of back in the 70s. Imagine taking that same poster art, but still having some type of animated element to it, so that when it plays as a banner ad on the side of a website, it draws you in a little bit more. Something subtle. Just see ripples of the waves, or in the case of something like We Are Still Here, subtle ashes kind of just blowing through the painted poster. Things like that can be utilized, and you can still have the regular, dramatic poster art, and not just have floating heads. I hate the floating heads mentality when it's just a photograph, because there's no skill behind the floating head. And I don't care if people disagree with me on that. I've done photography. I've had a small photography business growing up. In my mid-20s. Shining one light on someone's face and then photoshopping it onto a piece of onto your computer, and just adjusting some curves and doing some editing here and there, or pasting their head on another person's body, doesn't take that much time, doesn't take that much skill. And it's ridiculous that everybody seems to think that's the way things have to go now. So I leave you with the thought and the task as an artist out there, if you're watching, to really sit and break down how you can help yourself, how you can help others, and how we as artists can take back an industry that tossed us aside. Our time is valuable. Our artwork is valuable. Our skill set is something that's disappearing on a daily basis. And I refuse to let that happen. And that's why I'm doing this podcast, because I want to bring stuff like this to light. And I believe pretty passionately that eventually we can help everything shift back towards the ability for us as artists to have an actual living being illustrators again and being artists again, and without having to compromise our visions, at the same time not having to be a jack of all trades if you don't want to. Personally, I love doing stuff in After Effects. I love editing. I love video stuff too. So I get joy out of doing all of that. But I shouldn't have to if I want to make a living as an artist. And neither should you. So I'm going to leave you at that. I want to thank you so much for joining me tonight yet again, and listening to me talk about art for the past 2 hours or so, about an hour and 50 minutes. I am going to be working on these two a little bit more tonight. And if you don't follow me on Twitch, I'd say definitely do it, because I'm going to be over there in about a half hour, just playing a new Minecraft world from scratch in survival, and having fun. I enjoy playing Minecraft. I'm not the best at it. I make probably poor decisions, and that's fine. We'll laugh, we'll learn, we'll love, we'll have fun. Anyway, I am ThatStevenRice. I want to thank you so much once again for joining me. It's been absolutely real. And remember, you are in control of your art. Get out there, make art, and just make sure that it gets seen. Don't have fear, because there's somebody out there who will like your art. Even if you're not too sure of that, I'm almost guaranteed, because sometimes I hate the stuff that I put out and people love it. So follow me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter. Everything's at the handle of ThatStevenRice. I ramble at the end of all my videos. You could have turned it off a long time ago, but I'm glad you didn't. Click the subscribe button, hit the notification bell over to the side, and definitely, please, if you can, hit that donation link. Throw me a couple bucks so I can continue to bring this here to you. And thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow.